interesting looking grass.
It is interesting, and it's more interesting because it doesn't just produce what we call renewable fuels, which is not biofuels, by the way. It's important to separate the two. Biofuels are things like maize in the USA for ethanol and maybe oilseed rape oil. Both those plants are human foods, and they live on and they grow on good farmland. This will grow on rubbish land, and we don't eat it. So when we make fuel from it, we call that a renewable fuel because it can keep producing the fuel and not take away important agricultural land. This is on a dairy farm, but it doesn't have to grow here. It can grow on rubbish land that's not being used for cultivation.
And the fuel's catching on?
But in the States, they have the machinery, or the plant you might say, to make it. And of course they're growing a lot more of this stuff than we are. We've developed what you might call the eco-technology to grow the stuff, but we don't have any machinery in this country to turn this cellulose, because that's what it is, it's just cellulose, into a liquid renewable fuel. We are working on that, and there's talk about investing in such machines. And our dream would be to have little machines on a farm like this, where other farmers nearby would bring their bales of miscanthus to a central point, and then make their own renewable fuel, stick it straight in their tractor, because that's what happens with renewable fuel. You don't need any sophisticated chemistry, you just whack it straight in the tractor, renewable diesel, and drive away. Either in the tractor's tank, or in a tank behind the tractor or behind the truck. So that would be a dream, really, a central place of making renewable diesel for dairy farmers to share.
Now, I would probably be suggesting that you should either spray those weeds out or at least rogue them.
It does have some pretty flowers in it, doesn't it? Yes, but depends what language you use. First of all, they're not stopping the grass growing. They can't compete with this enormous grass. Secondly, they're just the yellow ones here are just sow thistle, but I can't see much evidence of it invading the pasture. I can see dandelion in this pasture, but that was here before we started. But you can easily put when it dies down in the winter, you just have brown cellulose, so you can use a herbicide in the winter to give it a clean up if you wish. But I don't mind. I'm not a dairy farmer. My life doesn't depend on dairying, but although part of my economy does. These flowers produce the opposite of what we call monoculture, and many beneficial insects like bees and ladybirds must have pollen and nectar. So on a rather sterile, no offence to the owner, dairy farm, it does provide some diversity that can boost biological control of pests.
And of course, you've always been an advocate for those little beasties that are helping people.
Yeah, a great fan of pretty flowers, really. Yeah. We've done great work in vineyards in New Zealand, especially Waipara, which we've discussed with you before. And that idea is now in use in every vineyard region in New Zealand and Australia, even over towards Perth. So it's not just pretty flowers, they have a function in agriculture. These weeds might be weeds to one man or woman's eyes, but to me they are a little bit of extra diversity that does no harm and does provide what we call the services of nature. The good news is that Chris Littlejohn, who worked on this for 3 years with a PhD, he found many nests of bumblebees in this grass, but in the boundaries of the farm, which are just gorse and cocksfoot, there were no bumblebees nesting. And this farm has red clover in amongst its ryegrass, or somebody has to grow the seed, don't they? Not this farm, but others do. And red clover seed, to be produced, must have long-tongued bumblebees, and they nest in this ryegrass. And Chris also found that lovely New Zealand skinks, which live only in this country, occurred here in quite high numbers because of the shelter, none in the boundaries of the paddocks. So again, those environmental benefits, which we can put dollars on if we want to, certainly bumblebees, we can put dollars on their value, are useful to the farmer.
Is it going to catch on?
Well, the trouble is, if they grow it, these farmers, what are they going to do with it? Because we don't have the machines to make renewable diesel, but it can make the ryegrass downwind grow 14% more, which is worth money, because it shelters the grass and keeping the plant's stomata, their breathing holes, remain open longer. So it makes more ryegrass. Also, if you're making milk or drying out milk in a factory, you need heat from somewhere. And natural gas and coal are what are called fossil fuels, as you know. This stuff is a superb source of heat, and it could be used as a co-firing resource in dairy factories. So it's not dreamland. We just need someone to pick it up and do it as a trial. You could even turn it into little cubes, like lucerne cubes, and then you can run it on the belt that feeds coal into a burner, so you can co-fire coal with this stuff. Just as a gesture that, 10%, 15%, just to give it a try. And we tried that, and it works fine. So it's multiple value.